She knows to video, like when we ask questions, right? Are you ready? Or did you turn it on?
It's live.
It's on. All right, awesome. All right. Hey, okay, are we on? We have power. All right. Okay, I'm used to standing, so if you can't see and you're over there, you can move right over here. That's fine, because I know we've got the line right here. Welcome to our town hall meeting in Redlands, California. For those who are watching online, and those of you who are here in person, welcome. My name is Heather, and my husband is Larry. We're using our building, which is a church building, but we're using it for a town hall because it was free. Hey! And so we wanted to bring in the candidates who are running for school board in Redlands Unified School District in Southern California. And we wanted to have a town hall meeting where you, as the voters, get to hear what the candidates' issues, views are on the issues, why they want to be on the school board, what qualifies them, and then we want to open it up to questions. When we are holding this meeting right here, one of the things we really want to emphasize is we're going to be courteous. We're going to let people finish their questions. There won't be any profanity. If you have a strong opinion or are passionate about something, that's fine. I mean, I think we're all passionate about children's education. I think we can all agree on that, right? We all want the best schools for our children and grandchildren, or just citizens, right? And so I hosted this, and it's the first time I've ever done anything like this. So if I look like I'm wet behind the ears in this area, I am. But give me a little slack, show me some grace. And so I did invite all three candidates who are running for Area 1 in the Redlands School Board. And I invited Patty Holohan, she's the incumbent, and I invited Victoria Agarino. If I butchered the name, please forgive me, Victoria. And I did not get any response back from Miss Patty. I did send email personally, and then through the superintendent's secretary, I didn't get any response. I sent email to Victoria. She got back to me 2 days ago and said she would love to come. And then last night she responded and said, I'm sorry, something has come up and I'm not able to be here. After, I was really, really hoping we would have more viewpoints expressed here, because I think the more viewpoints that we have expressed here, the better options we have and the better decisions we can make. So the one who did respond was Erin Stepien, and she responded, and obviously she showed up. She made time for us to hear her views and why she is running for this seat on the school board in the city of Redlands. So first of all, we're going to start off with some questions that I had already sent. I sent the same questions to all the candidates. And so she had a couple days ahead of time, as did Victoria. I wasn't able to send them to Miss Patty because I didn't get a confirmation back from her. And if I'm calling her Miss Patty, I should call her maybe Miss Holohan. I don't know. I'm just trying to be polite to everybody. So, Erin, welcome.
Hello, good evening.
It's good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. We're so happy to have you here. Again, I want to say that my little part of Redlands is very dear to my heart. I've been in the city since 1963. My family, all here. We have 4 generations here. My brother worked for the police department. My father retired as a captain on the Redlands Fire Department. I have nephews in education here. My nephew works at the University of Redlands. My grandchildren are here. My daughters went to Redlands schools. I graduated Redlands High School, so did my brothers. All my nephews graduated from there. So we are very, I would say, planted in the city, and it's very dear to my heart. I mean, when I moved here, there was probably less than 30,000 people, and far more orange trees than there were human beings. But it's not that case anymore. But I do love this city, and I love the school district. This is the actual first time I've ever participated in any such an event. I mean, I would just go vote all the time. I would vote and figure everything was being handled the right way. But then when I started doing my own investigation, I realized there was some things that were alarming to me. And so I wanted to know what the candidates stood for and what each person felt about the issues that concern all of us as citizens, parents, grandparents, etc. Okay? So, Erin, I want to ask you to just give a little bit of an intro about who you are, where you come from, and we can get to know a little bit about you.
Sure, so my name is Erin Stepien. My husband and myself and our 3 children have lived in Redlands just shy of 6 years. I grew up in Riverside, went to school in Santa Barbara, did a trip away, living in Hawaii for a while, then moved back to California to get married and raise a family. This is the most wonderful community. It's a small town where you still know your neighbors. You see people you know at coffee shops. It's the beauty of this town. I currently am a vice president for a biotech company. I work in cancer genomics. I've worked in this field for over 20 years. So I'm private sector businesswoman, mom to 3 kids, and a wife.
Awesome. 3 children?
3.
3 children?
Yes.
Well, let's get to our questions. Give you a few minutes to answer each one. We have 8 questions here, and then we will open it up to the audience, and that's why I have a cordless mic, so I will have you ask your question, okay? But let's go ahead and get to the first question, okay? So, why are you running for the Board of Education? And if elected, what will be your priorities? So it's a 2-part question. Why are you running, and then what would be your priorities?
Okay, so we'll start with why I'm running. Probably about 2 years ago, I felt a very strong calling to get further involved in this community. I felt like this community has given so much to our family, you know, and knowing our neighbors, the sense of community through schools. It's just a wonderful place to live. And I felt that I needed to give back. I had thought about it a lot and what I wanted to do, and when the opportunity came forward to get involved here with the schools where I could actually make a difference in the lives of 20,000 children and their families, I thought that's the best place to begin my involvement in the community. I knew, just like in business, I like to go after the big deals. It's kind of what I do. These children need help. Our school board needs help. And education is the foundation of everything. It's what sets us, all of our paths forward in life. It's done that for me, and I believe it does that for every child. Regarding
Your priorities.
my priorities, so I would say there's 3. Academic excellence, striving for academic excellence would be my first goal. What I've seen from what I can find is that RUSD, the math and reading scores have plummeted since 2014. They've dropped almost 20%. We now have 5 of the 25 schools in our district that are below 50% in the state. Redlands used to be the shining star of the Inland Empire. And not to say that we aren't, but there's drastic room for improvement from what I can see. So that would be my first priority, to really focus in on improving academics, math and reading specifically, across all grade levels. Secondly, fiscal responsibility. Again, I'm a private citizen, we're all taxpayers. I'm a big believer in using resources wisely. Again, the RUSD budget is not public. It should be, because it's all of our tax dollars. It should be public. But from what I've dug, I think there's a lot of money coming into the system. And I think there should be some better transparency in how it's spent. And my goals and objective would be, again, to all align to increasing academics. The money should go to improving, making sure we have the best teachers for these kids, making sure the focus is on reading, writing, math, and science. I think that's how we should invest in the children. And thirdly, something I've seen like through this run and even in preparation for all of this, there needs to be improved transparency. In attending board meetings, whether in person or online, I think there's a sense from many of parents, at least it's what I'm hearing from parents who are talking to me, that they feel like they know they are no longer in charge of their students in the school districts. And I think that, kids belong to their parents, parents know what's best for their children, and the board needs to be more transparent in their decisions. I believe that administration and teachers should be accountable for results, and that we should work to improve relationships with the parents of RUSD kids.
Thank you. That's very thorough. And the next question is, what particular experiences or skills have prepared you to serve as a board member?
Well, I'm not an educator. Again, I come from the private sector. But I believe critical thinking and discernment are some of the most important skills as a board member. I am not afraid to make hard choices, hard decisions in the best interest of the kids. I think my business background will bring added diversity and thought to the group of educators that are existing currently. And in my field, I work with so many people of many different backgrounds. And to be successful, you have to work with lots of people of different backgrounds. And you have to find ways to collaborate. You have to come for solutions. And I think coming from the private sector, it sets me up well.
Thank you. Question 3. What do you see is the primary work of the Board of Education? So what do you see in your understanding, your perspective, is the primary work of a school board?
Well, my mother just retired from 30 years on a college board. So I have a little bit of insight from my mom's experience. The responsibilities of the board is to set policy, and the only person the board employs is the superintendent. So the superintendent answers to the board. I think that making sure that policies are well aligned to the goals of increasing academics, again, it all has to connect, but it's really about setting policy.
Okay.
And direction for the school.
I think at this point, I'm sure the public might have a different viewpoint, but I was very uneducated on what role the school board actually does play. I don't know if all of you know what role the school board plays. I mean, sometimes we'll go to a school board meeting and we'll want to express our opinion, and the school board has already had a state mandate that they can't violate. And so I'm learning. I'm actually wanting to educate myself about what is the school board's purpose, what are their boundaries, what are their parameters, what can they do and what can't they do. I'm sure there's boundaries and there's things they're confined to doing and not doing.
So you need to know, I would be learning too. This would be on the job learning, since I've never done anything like this. But again, I know I'm a quick study. I can work collaboratively with other people, but it really is to set policy. And I've looked through, the hundreds of pages of RUSD policy. It seems a little bit cumbersome. Maybe some of that could be simplified. Again, I don't know yet, but it's really to set policy and direction for the district.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is, what can be done to improve student achievement and to ensure everyone who graduates is college ready? I know that's an opinion, but well, in your opinion?
In my opinion, it seems that RUSD has maybe shifted away a little bit from focusing solely on education. And when I say education, I mean reading, writing, math, and science. In my opinion, it seems that some of the social issues that are plagued within our community, within our country, have really begun to dominate in the school, and that time and attention that should be spent on academics is now being spent there. And I think that, again, outsider looking in, the focus needs to be school. That's what we're paying tax dollars for, so that our kids get the best education possible.
Yes. Okay. Would you agree that we want to increase the percentage of students who graduate to actually be college ready? Not that they will all go to college, but would you agree that that is a priority?
Yes, that should be an absolute priority, again, because that's the goal of education. Every child should be college ready. Whether they choose that path for themselves, that's up to them and their family. I'm a big advocate of parent choice, but I think the school system should offer the children the best possible education that they can.
Yes. I'm going to add a little bit here. I remember when I was in 9th grade here, I went to Clement Junior High School. We had to take a proficiency test to see where we ranked. Obviously, we take the California Standardized Achievement Test, and it was not even an issue at 9th grade that I scored, and I was an exceptional student. I mean, I was in the top part, but I remembered scoring. I still have those scores. And I scored what they call as a 13.6, which was equivalent to, it was the highest that you could get. It was a freshman in college 6 months into the year. That was the highest you could get on these overall scores, and they averaged them together. Now, I'm wondering, what is the average now if we were to take, like across the board with these students, like taking all 9th graders in the city of Redlands, they would take this proficiency test, where would they be as opposed to back in 1970 something when I took mine?
So
that concerns me, you know?
Yeah, it should. So I can tell you some of the statistics that I pulled up.
Okay.
Our USD has a graduation rate of 92%. So that's fairly high, right?
Okay.
The majority of the kids are graduating high school. That's a
good.
good sign.
I like that.
But if you look at the math proficiency in the district, it's 44%. So 92% of the students are graduating, but the math proficiency is 44%. If you take the reading proficiency in the district is 57%. So to qualify this, both numbers, math and reading, are above California's average. California average is 40% math proficiency, 51% reading. But you and I all know that California is not the leader in education in the country. So we're not starting from a great spot. And I just think there's major room for improvement, and math and reading,
Yes.
you use that your whole life in whatever field you choose.
That's right.
They're going to be important. So to me, the graduation rate, it tells me that, yeah, we're graduating a lot of kids, but we probably haven't serviced them with the best education that they deserve.
It appears the standards have lowered.
Yes, I've heard that, actually.
I don't like that. We've got to do something about that. Okay. Wow. Okay. I think that probably includes number 5, but let's go ahead and just put the number 5 question out there. What issues do you believe the district needs to address in its academic program and offerings? And what changes would you recommend?
So, our USD used to have about 21,000 children in the district. The current data for the 2022-2023 school year is now 19 and change. Each student represents about $14,000 from the state. So that $2,000 gap, or excuse me, 2,000 student gap represents about a loss of $28 million to the district. if they don't work to improve their academics, and I think also give these kids back to their parents, they're gonna keep losing kids. And that's gonna be a major problem in our community.
I've never thought about the math on that. So it's $14,000 a year to educate a student approximately in the city of, or in the state of California, or Redlands itself?
Redlands specific, the state of California average is closer to 19,000 a student, you know, give or take the area you're in. Redlands is just under 14,000. Hence why if you have a RUSD student and your child is not in school, they call you because they're not paid for the day.
That makes
It's
sense.
a business.
Yeah, it makes
It's a
sense.
business.
It makes sense. Okay. And what changes would you recommend?
Well, I'm gonna sound like a broken record. I think we need to go back to a focus on reading, writing, math, and science. We have gotten so far away from that. From what I hear from parents and students, kids are spending sometimes up to 20, 25 minutes in their classes, in like a 40 to 50 minute class, where the teacher walks them through a social emotional learning. They're wanting to know how they're feeling that day. I'm all for feelings. We all want to feel good, but that is not the job of a school. That is not the job of a teacher. A teacher's not qualified to do that type of work. That's a counselor's role. The teacher needs to be teaching math. The teacher needs to be teaching science. That is how we're going to see these kids succeed.
I want to ask you a question a little bit off the list and just see if you know the answer. Who chooses the curriculum for the school district? Do you know? Is it a state?
I don't know.
Okay.
I would think the ultimate decision maker on the curriculum that's brought in would be the board.
Okay.
But I don't yet know that process.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good thing to find out.
Well,
It would be interesting to look at textbooks. We'll have questions in just a minute, but hold on to that.
Well, I do know your answer.
Well, I know the answer
Okay,
too.
just hold on for,
We all know
we'll
the
have the
answer.
audience questions in just a minute, and I'd love to hear the answer to that. I would be very interested to see what the textbooks look like when I went to school as opposed to the textbooks now. Okay, because I can read and write pretty well. Okay, then number 6, what are your areas of concern? Well, we already did that, regarding student achievement in your district. Is your district, is the district that we're in right now, Area 1, is it different than the others? I'm kind of, do you know anything about that?
You mean from an academic perspective?
Just anything.
They don't break up the academics per district.
Okay.
It's more just representation from the
Okay.
board by certain areas.
It would be interesting to break up the 5, there's 5 districts in Redlands School District,
Yes.
to look at what district, how they rank the highs and the lows of that district in each of the, maybe I'm a little detailed there, but I would like to see, like, if the kids in District 2 are like lower in one area and kids in District 1 are a little higher, what would be the difference? And are all the schools teaching the same curriculum? Like, there's middle schools, there's Coke, there's Moore, and there's Clement. Are they all teaching the same curriculum? I would be interested to know all that.
I'd be interested too, and I don't know.
Right. Okay, and then we have a gentleman in the back who knows these questions, and I want to hear from him in just a minute. Okay, number 7, how does a school board balance the need to provide a quality education with the need to respond to the local taxpayer burden? Like, how does the school board balance that? Like, this is what we need coming in to keep the schools running, to pay the teachers and the admin and the maintenance and all that. And then the taxpayer, I mean, how does the school board balance that?
Well, they get, again, a sum of money per child. I believe RUSD is running a budget, I'm estimating, somewhere between $250 million, $265 million. I believe half of that money, or roughly half of that money, probably goes to teachers. There's just over 900 teachers in the RUSD district. And then you kind of start backing things out from there. But again, if you have the bulk of your money going to teachers, as it should, it absolutely should. I think teachers are underpaid. The good ones are underpaid. But we also need to figure out and hold accountable the teachers that are not putting forward excellence in academics. If you're seeing a trend of one specific teacher year over year, those children are going to the next grade level, and then that teacher's having to catch up from this teacher, then that needs to be addressed. And in my opinion, with money. Like, maybe there's a pay cut, maybe, I don't know how all those things work yet. But again, coming from a business perspective, I know for myself, if I don't hit my goals, I don't get paid. It's very simple. And I think, you know, the board, they're all educators. They don't come from the private sector, where there's a lot of accountability in the private sector. And I think it should be in the educational sector too.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
So it's a balance. And I won't know all of that until I get in, because I don't even, their budget isn't public. It should be. Any good school, like my mom's college, that budget's public. You can go on their website, you don't search through 12 pages, it's front and center.
Yeah.
Any citizen who pays taxes, anybody, you log in, you can see exactly what they're spending, what their annual budget is, how things are broken down, where the bulk of their money's going, where there's deficits. Again, it goes back to transparency. What are they hiding?
Is that across the board that do you know, or is it just certain districts? It's not a law to make it public?
I don't know if it's a law, but it's public funding through taxpayer dollars, so it should be available to the taxpayers.
Absolutely. It would be like an investment. Like if I wanted to go look at a 401k I invested in, I should know what they're doing with my money, because I have invested interest in that. I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. Okay, and then our last question is, what is your vision? What is your vision for the education in this community? What would you like to see? Obviously, it probably couldn't be done in 1 or 2, school years, but what would you eventually like to see? Like maybe a 5-year plan? What would you like, or 3 or 4?
So the term for this board election, it's a 4-year term. Each board member up there has a 4-year term.
Okay.
So if elected, I have 4 years to achieve these goals.
Wow.
What would I like to see? I would like to see RUSD become the shining star of the Inland Empire, where if you have great schools, you bring in, you attract other people to want to live in your city. It was part of why we moved into Redlands. So bringing it back to where these scores are not so dismal, where people want to live in Redlands, not only for all the beauty and the wonderful things that Redlands offers, but because they know if they put their kids in public school, they're going to be in a great system. So that's first and foremost. The other thing I think about, RUSD has an opportunity. I feel like everything in this election cycle is a possible opportunity. They have an opportunity to lead, where they could become a district that is very vocal with parent choice and supporting the parents, where I know that has not been what they've been. And there's an opportunity with the possibility of changing board members where that could all be reestablished. And kids are first. Every decision that board makes, those children's interests will be first. And the parents supporting them will be right alongside. So that would be kind of what I see. I think we also, just looking at some of the things that have even come down in this week with, mandates possibly and CDC, things like that, RUSD has an opportunity to take some really big positions on some really big issues. And to me, when you're willing to make hard decisions and take hard positions that I believe parents want choice. No board should tell any parent anything regarding a kid's health. And we have a chance to do that. So I'd have 4 years to get those things done.
It doesn't sound like much time, but you have your work cut out for you, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's okay. I like to work. I'm a good worker.
Wow. Okay. Is there anything else you would like to let the voters know about you? Your commitment to excellence, your commitment to the school board. You do have a full-time job, and then this would be in addition to that. What can you tell us what the pay is to be on the school board?
Sure, absolutely. It's $400 a month. I plan to donate it.
Wow.
I just want to make a difference. These kids deserve better. $400 is not going to change my life, but I know that if I get in there, I can change the lives of many kids and families. And I know I'm called to do this.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
How many hours a week would you have to put in on such?
I don't know. Whatever comes at me, I'll take care of. That's just kind of how I run. And I think any mother in this room can attest to this. No offense to the fathers, but mothers are highly efficient. We can multitask like nobody's business. We can juggle gazillions of balls. And I am a person of excellence. That's what I strive for. It's what I expect of my kids. And it's what I hold myself accountable to. So I will bring all of that into that board. Hopefully I can be a leader in that board. A leader with a gentle voice. I'm not going to make friends by being unkind. That's not my style. I just want to do the right things for the kids, and I would hope that all the other board members on there are aligned to that same value.
Would you be willing to speak with parents about issues with the school board? I know I've gone to only 3 school board meetings in the last year and a half, but from what I see, how this meeting is run, the public is allowed to go up and they have a 3 minutes and they have to talk to get their feelings out, and then there's no feedback from the school board, so it almost feels like you're talking to a wall. That's how I felt. I'm just giving my opinion. I'm not trying to put any person down. I'm just saying that's how I felt, and I thought, well, when do we get to talk? And then I did at the last school board meeting, Mr. O'Neill did come down and he did address some of us that were standing there, but I was told by another person there that said he's never done that before. And I don't know if is it something that's important to you to be in communication? I mean, would you even be open to having parents in a polite way ask you questions about what is going on, and would you feel like you would just be kind of aloof? Like, that's how I see them. I can't even find anything out about some of them when I go to social media. I don't know where you've come from. And I feel like if I'm going to vote for somebody, I need to know where they stand on the issues, what they believe in, what they don't believe in, because they're going to represent my children, my grandchildren, and we have a business here. We have a business. We've been open almost 20 years. We've trained over 26,000 students in teaching them how to drive. We have the highest rated driving school in Southern California because we're committed to excellence. That is our heart's desire. So a lot of the kids, all the kids that go to school, almost all of them, come through our driving school. And so we get to deal with them. But I'm concerned about the transparency. Was that something you want to promote?
Yes, that's why it was number 3 on my objectives. The board is aloof. Anyone that knows me knows I'm not. Several of you in here in this room actually know me outside of just this run. I am a very open person, and the only way I'm going to know what's going on in those schools is if parents tell me. And it's already been absolutely amazing, the type of information parents have been sending me through social media because they know I'm running, and they know I'm running to make a difference for their child. So unless parents bring that stuff forward, I will not know. I'm not a teacher. I'm not on those campuses. I'm gonna need people to bring, and I will make sure everyone knows that I'm the board member that will be the advocate for the parent. So if you have problems, you bring them to me, and I'll figure it out.
What about folks who might not agree with all of your ideas and they come to you and they present their issue? How would you deal with that if it was something that maybe you didn't personally agree with?
Sure. So I'll give you a recent situation. A couple board meetings ago, there was a high school student that brought forward books that he found in his high school library that definitely were adult content books. I don't believe adult content books should be in a school library, but I also understand there's some people that do. So my solution for something like that would be, let's pull those books off the shelf. Let's have like a search of all of our books, pull all these books off the shelves, have them be behind with the librarian, and if a parent wants to sign that their child can check that book out, then go for it. But that doesn't need to be something that every child needs to have access to. Again, I bring it back to parent choice. If you want your children reading that content, then sign your name. I'm not looking to move anybody out. I will be an advocate for all children, all children. And I think it will be, there's gonna be certain things that are gonna have to be, we have to find solutions that work for all families. It's not my way or the highway, and again, it's a majority vote. Mm-hmm. So just because I believe this doesn't mean that that's what it'll be. Mm-hmm. It has to be solutions that will work for all.
Thank you very much. I'm going to open it up now to public questions. Again, as you present your questions, again, I would just remind you to be polite and courteous. You may feel strongly about an issue, and that's perfectly fine to feel strongly about an issue, but we're all here to get the best education and the best solution for our students. So if somebody, I guess, should we have a mic? Yeah, I'll just bring it to you. I'll just bring it to you. No, I have no sense of coming.
Mine is a two-pronged. Excuse me. Your idea on CRT, and the big buzzword in our district right now is equity. And how you feel about equity for the students that are disabled and are second language, or we have large homeless populations of kids. So the equity for that and CRT.
Okay. And CRT stands for?
Critical race theory.
Okay, critical race theory. Okay, that's a good question.
So let's start with critical race theory. From what I've been told, I don't believe critical race theory is currently in our USD curriculum. I personally believe that we shouldn't be dividing any students by race. Again, we need to be offering the best educational opportunity to all the students. So I'm not a supporter of critical race theory. I actually have had some parents reach out to me about different things that they've had their high school student come home with, writing a paper, an essay on his white privilege. I don't think that's right. You can't help how you're born. And again, the teachers should go back to reading, writing, math, and science. That needs to be the focus. Does that answer your question? Okay. Now regarding equity. Equity is the buzzword. It's a buzzword in my business too. I think that students that need more support should get more support. But I think a one-size-fits-all doesn't always work. There might be situations where others need additional assistance, some of the things you mentioned. And again, I don't have access to even know any of that data yet. But again, if I stick to what I know my goals would be, all those children, regardless of their demographic, their family situation, They need to be afforded the best educational opportunity. And that may look different based upon their home life. Does that make sense? I don't know how the district handles any of that now. So I would go into all of that learning, eyes wide open to learn.
Would you be open to maybe bringing social services in to help with a situation like that? If, like, when you're talking about a homeless child?
Our district has so many homeless children or foster children, where counseling services are available, but other things aren't. My main concern is children with disabilities.
Is what?
Children with disabilities.
Oh, children with disabilities. Okay, did you want to address that?
I'd love to first know from you, how is that handled now? Do you know?
There's a series of meetings that are held. A parent can request, a teacher can request, and there's a series of meetings, and it sometimes takes 2 to 3 years
2 to 3 years for what?
to get an answer to how the child's going to be taken care of. Data has to be collected, tests have to be done, things like that.
Those tests are a year, maybe if you're lucky to get.
Go ahead.
somebody. Only because I had somebody, one of my kids with IEP, and it took, months to even try to get an appointment.
Okay, this is what I'm gonna tell you both. Again, if you go back to the roles and responsibility of the board,
Yeah.
it's their job to set policy. If that is happening, that is a disservice to those children and it needs to be fixed. It's very simple. They can change the direction. They can apply more resources if they so decide. That would be a policy issue and it would need to be changed. Nothing should take that long for a child.
You said 2 to 3 years,
Not always.
but it could be that long.
1 year is too long. It should not be that difficult. There are tons of resources in those schools. Again, I don't know if it's well managed. It makes that example, I can tell you in my world, everyone would lose their job. That tells me something is grossly mismanaged. And maybe new policies or amendments to existing policies for children that need more help. Because no family should ever have to deal with that. I'm sorry.
I second that. I was a supervisor for public social services before we opened up the drive-in school. And children need help, and foster care that's no easy task right there. And I applaud anybody who is a good foster parent. It's a calling from God, really. Now, sir, did you have you had a statement? You were gonna answer my question, and I'm so happy.
I had a question as well. So
Oh, yeah.
I guess my first question is, how long have you been running? How long have you known you've been running?
Well, I officially filed in August.
Okay.
I knew at the beginning, was it the end of spring? The woman sitting right in front of you is the one that found me.
Okay. Well, I just have a question then,
Okay.
and this is gonna sound a little harsh, but one of your main platforms is to raise the levels of reading and writing. But you just stated that you don't even know who sets the curriculum. So you say there's a major problem, and I do agree with that. But you've been running for quite a while, and that's one of your major topics, and you're gonna be, we hope, you want us to vote for you, but you don't even know how the curriculum is even set, which, by the way, you were just saying you don't like the fact that we're doing SEL in the classrooms. I'm a teacher and I have to do it, I'm not in this district. I agree, actually, but that comes from the state. The school board has nothing to do with that. The school
You
district-
define SEL for us.
Social emotional learning.
Social emotional learning, which is that part of
It's
CRT?
like, yeah, you have to do it for like 15 minutes or 20 minutes a week. But that's not something that's set by the school board or the school district. That's something much higher, which maybe it is a problem for people, and whether I agree or don't agree, that's kind of beyond the point. If I'm gonna vote for you as a school board member, and you don't know that, that makes me a little nervous.
Okay, well, I will offer this back to you. The person I'm running against has been in there for 16 years. This would be her 20th year term. All of the statistics that I shared with you happened under her watch. So I may not have all the answers, and I don't claim to have all the answers.
Okay, but I mean, again, I'm not disagreeing that our levels are ridiculously low.
Yep.
But we do know that, like you did point it out, that we're well above the state. Whether that makes it right or wrong is beside the point as well. But again, you're asking us to vote for you for school board to take over for the incumbent or the other lady who obviously is also not here, but they aren't setting the curriculum. So what are you gonna do different to help these scores?
Well,
Just one moment, we're gonna let her answer. We're gonna let her answer, we'll do one at a time.
again, because I am not in those classrooms, those scores make me really wonder how much focus is put towards reading and math. And is it a teacher issue? I don't know, could be. Is it a student environment issue? Like maybe it's not the best learning environment. I do believe that matters. I think there's a lot of things that, you're right, I don't yet know. But I know that the one I'm running against, all this has happened under her.
You did have your hand up earlier that you knew an answer to the question?
The SEL question.
Oh.
It's not set by the district, it's set by the state.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I applaud you for sitting up there. I know it's really hard to step into education and try to catch up on which side the ping pong ball is flying. I've been in education for 23 years now, and you're not mandated by the state to teach SAL. That's a district choice. They actually got a grant for that, and that's where they get the money for the curriculum, and that's why they're pushing it.
But it's from the state.
It was their choice to apply for it. It was the school board, our school board set the policy, and they voted to utilize a specific curriculum, which our board members admitted to never been reading. It's in our classroom. And they also voted on curriculum. So, but my question to you is, I know it's a big step to jump into education again. Again, I'm a teacher and I don't teach SEL, but I still like my students feel welcome and give them nice, encouraging, nurturing questions. But can you tell us about a time that maybe a teacher made a world of a difference in your life?
Yes. Dave Burdett. I still remember his name. I'm a Christian girl. I went through Christian school. He was my Bible teacher. He's still at the school I graduated from. He just impacted me drastically, and my husband and I are still in contact with him. And then in college, I went to college. My father's a lawyer. I went to college thinking I was gonna study law to become a lawyer, take over my dad's practice. And I had a history teacher. And he made such an impact on me, just who he was, what he stood for, just wonderful in teaching that subject, which, in high school I thought was really boring. It sure wasn't in college. I loved it. And I ended up choosing it as I did a double major, one of my majors, which still kind of fit into law, a lot of reading and writing. Teachers make huge impacts in a student's life. I see that in my own children. Just today in the car, my 12-year-old was telling me about her English teacher, who she wasn't sure that she really liked her before. She's like, Mom, she's my favorite teacher. She's unbelievable to me. She goes, my daughter, she had all these activities today after school. She was able to come into her English class and get her homework done. She opened her door, welcomed her in. Teachers make a huge difference in the lives of those kids, especially when you don't know what's always going on at home. So good teachers are essential, and they should be well paid for a job well done.
Anyone else? I'll get to you just a second.
Speak right into the mic.
I feel like you already answered this, but today was a big day for a lot of parents who've been following all the different mandates for the past couple of years. The CDC voted unanimously to implement the CD19 jab as part of the childhood immunization schedule. It's effective, I think, February 2023, if I have that correct. So I'm sure you're aware of all the concerns parents have. What is your stance on this? And if elected, what will it be when you're on that board?
I'm a parent advocate, and I believe parents make the best decisions for their kids. I think it needs to be a parent's choice. If they want to choose that for their child, fine. And if you don't want to choose that for your child, fine. There should be a path for exemption for those who don't choose that, and no one should be discriminated against on either side for the choice that your family makes. I would vote against any sort of mandate if that was to come to our USD. Obviously, if it's implemented by the state, I would bring forward that we need to have a path for parents who don't want this.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I was just gonna say, as far as curriculum, usually the board chooses 3 to 5 publishers, and then it's disseminated. It takes 2 to 3 years, and the teachers take it to the class and they pilot it. And then information is given back on what the good and the bad is for that curriculum, for that grade. So they do a pretty thorough
Analysis.
of the curriculum, leaving it in a teacher's hands to at least, before a decision is made.
Can I ask you a question about curriculum?
Sure.
Because you seem to know a lot about this. Do teachers stick closely to the curriculum that the district implements? Or is there a lot of leeway in what some teachers choose to bring into their classroom?
Depends on the administration, but basically every teacher in every grade should be teaching the same curriculum at the same time. It's not locked in like other districts where you're to be on one page at a certain day, but there are certain things in the curriculum you're to teach daily, and it's mandated, and that's what you need to do so that every child gets the same education.
Okay, thank you.
Did that suffice?
Yes, thank you.
Anyone else? Questions? This is a great time to ask your questions. Even make a comment as long as it's not.
Just to add on to what Shelby said too, because we were both on the Zoom, I remember the exact night that they voted, that the RUSD voted unanimously to adopt SEL. I remember exactly where I was in my house and everything, because it was a big decision and everyone was like, what just happened? And it was Wagner's committee that was in charge of researching which curriculum to use, and then Wagner came up with SEL, was his committee decided that was the best one and brought it to the board, and then the board voted on it, and so that's how that went. Just adding on to what Shelby said, but I wanted to ask you, let's say that the CDPH gets rid of personal exemptions for the vaccine. Do you have any ideas of what could we do?
Let's hope that doesn't happen. But I know, for example, I think it was Lucerne Valley, that they spoke out against all of this, even when it initially we thought it was going to hit. They're not the only school. And I don't believe RUSD would be the only school. And I think that we would have to band together for strength in numbers to fight against something like this with the support of the families. We would need the parents' support. Again, there's probably a lot of legality around that that I'm not aware of, at least not aware of it currently. But I don't believe that the majority of people want any sort of medical procedure mandated for their child. Yeah.
Anyone else? Yes.
Can I just make one other statement?
Oh, yes, of course.
One other statement, I was just thinking about this. Like, you were talking about SEL. And
Again, SEL is social Emotional learning?
Yes.
Is that what you said it was, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Social, emotional learning. It's not an academic class.
Correct.
Right, okay.
This goes back to my earlier point. Things are moving away from academics. And the social issues of our times are invading our schools. And boards are choosing this for exactly what you said. There's money attached.
Yep.
I am running. I don't want an endorsement from a teachers union. I don't want the endorsement from the Teachers Association. I want the parents to choose me, because I will not be bought and paid. I will not vote for something that's not good for those kids. I don't care if $50 million is tied to it. We will use the resources the state gives us, and we will find a way to use them effectively. Sorry.
Don't apologize. We need somebody who's passionate. We need somebody who's passionate. Who wants an old limp rag? I want to say this.
That's not me. I'm not a limp rag.
Do you know the amount of money that Redlands Unified School District received for implementing a mask mandate? Do you happen to know that offhand?
I've seen a bit of mixed data. It's between $40 and $63 million. $40 and $63 million to force our children to wear masks. Again, if somebody wants their child in a mask because they feel that's their best protection, I support that. But I also support the parents that don't want that. And again, I don't want to see these schools being bought and paid for an agenda that is not in the best interest of the kids. And our USD needs to learn to work within their resources without having to take all of this, I'm going to call it dirty money, for things that aren't in the best interest of the kids. That's a lot of money.
And again, if we have no fiscal accountability, we don't even know where that money went. That is interesting, to make a child wear a medical device. Okay, yes, sir.
When you said that they don't have CRT, if you get on the board, I hope you will look beyond that. Just because the bureaucracy tells you we don't have, quote, CRT, unquote, doesn't mean they really don't have it under some other name, and you're willing to look beyond what they tell you. You touched on earlier about the student that found the sexually explicit materials in the library, and compare and contrast how board member Holohan reacted to that information, as well as the information that official school Instagram accounts were promoting an off-campus drag queen event, and how member Holohan reacted to that versus how you would have reacted if you were on the board.
So let's start with the books. I don't care what those books say. If there's adult content of any sorts, whether it's heterosexual, homosexual, there's no place for it in the schools. That boy was courageous and brave to bring that forward in such a public way. He spoke that he was living within Ms. Houlihan's district, Area 1, my district, many of your districts. He was not acknowledged nor thanked by a single member of that board that evening. And I think that's horrible. Now regarding the other situation that occurred, I'm very aware of that. There was a Latino festival, community event with drag queens associated. And 4 of the local RUSD high schools were found to be actively promoting this drag queen event. And I say that, even though it said Latino, drag queens were what were on the invitation. That was the theme of the event. And again, I get back to, if you as a parent choose to take your child to that, that's your business. But a school should not be promoting content that's not child appropriate. No child, 0 to 18, could walk into a drag queen show anywhere else. So why is a school promoting this to our kids? That kind of stuff needs to go. And if they're spending money to do this, it really needs to go. Does that answer your question?
Did Member Holohan have any reaction to that information?
No. No.
Yes, just a moment. Let me bring the mic back to you.
It's okay. I come up, but let me hold it up to you. I'll hold the mic.
Just like I said, we take God out the devil up there.
Rose, do you want to paraphrase?
Question.
Well, when we drop our guard, the bad comes in.
Right.
And we have to stand up. We've got to stand up for our children. We're seeing things slip away. So, and that takes uniting. Everybody's going to have to unite.
Do you have a question?
No.
Did you have a question?
Dan, just a comment. Okay.
No, that's my statement.
And your great-grandparents, correct?
Yeah, my great-grandparents, yeah.
Mm-hmm, your great-grandparents. So it's all ages and all the generations are concerned about these things.
Can I share one other thing that occurred this week? Kind of to your point on content. A mom through social media, I don't know her, found my page. I think she saw the stuff about the high school content. She has a 6-year-old at Smiley. 6 years old. She started sending me screenshots of the book that this child picked out from their library. It was satanic. It was all about witchcrafts and devils. And again, like, children don't need to be exposed to this type of content. If a parent wants to do that with their child, it's their child. But as a school, we need to be putting information in front of our kids that aligns to the goals of education.
Correct.
I think that's so important. And I think so many things have slipped in over the years when so many of us, we're all working. Parents are busy. Most people work. Mom works, dad works, everybody's working. You're juggling kids and activities. And you're trusting that your school is going to do the best for your child and with good intention. Well, I think COVID blew that up and it's all been exposed. So it's time to clean it all up. And it will take time. It'll take time. But I think, again, if you have a board that has the kids' best interests, it can be done.
I'll get to you just a second. I want to share a personal experience because the board meeting that I went to, I did hear the young man, the student, pleading for help from adults. When children ask for adults for help, adults should help the student. That's just the way it is. If a child needs help, you help the student. And when he was reading these portions of this adult, I'm going to say pornographic material, I was videoing him from the back. I wasn't aware he was even going to speak that night. I didn't know. I just went so I could go to a school board meeting and find out what's going on in my city. And I recorded his 3-minute speech as he read straight out of the books. It made me feel uncomfortable that this young man was reading this. Right? Parental controls. You put that on your social media, on your YouTube, on the kid. You control what your kids see up to a certain age. And so I videoed it and I shared it to our church TikTok page just to say, this is what's going on. And nobody in the school board even appeared to bat an eye because I zoomed in. I'm like, okay, surely their faces are going to say, they're going to be shocked. Like, oh my gosh, you're reading out of an adult book, right? When I shared it on TikTok, within 2 weeks, it had over 3,000 views. Then I get a response from TikTok. We're going to take this off. Your video has now been shut down because it has violated are standards for minors under 18 because it has sexual obscenity and descriptions of nudity. But he was reading the book that was actually highlighted in his public school library. But TikTok, which is not known for being conservative, banned it. It was an irony. I was astounded. Yes.
Give me the mic.
Give you the mic?
Yes.
Oh, that's my husband.
I raised my hand.
Okay. He usually doesn't need one.
The importance of a teacher in a kid's life is unmeasurable. I had some type of a learning ability as a small child that they gave me an IQ test. And it scored over 140. But I was not doing well in school. There was probably some emotional issues there. But they changed how they taught you how to sound out words and spell. I graduated in 1976. I was born in 1957. They changed something when I was in 3rd and 4th grade. So when I got 5th and 6th, I realized I can't spell words more than cat and dog. So I went to a counselor and I said, I can't spell, what can you do for me? We'll have you take a typing class and you can just memorize words. That was 6th grade, 7th grade. I did it in 8th grade, 9th grade. I did it in high school. Nobody helped me all the way through junior high school and all the way in high school. I can do math excellently. I can read. I can figure out words by the context of the sentence. But I slipped through without being able to spell or sound out words. How would you address that? And how would you find out if there are other kids slipping through because when I took the test, I passed the test. But I can't spell. To this day, I can't sound out a word. I mean, it drives my wife nuts. So how would you address that type of an issue?
Good question. Well, each grade should have proficiency tests where gaps for each child are identified. It sounds like maybe you somehow outsourced or outsmarted the test.
Yes.
I would hope that some teacher, that's also part of the teacher-student relationship. Teachers know, I mean, my kids' teachers know where their areas of weakness are and their areas of strength. And you'd have to work with the teachers to maybe identify those areas of improvement that aren't being seen in the proficiency test. And then you set up something to then help those children. Again, I'm a big believer in applying resources towards the goal, and the goal being that these kids get the best education. And I think what your example shows is similar to RUSD. 92% graduation rate with reading and math proficiencies that are in the 40s and 50s. So there's a lot of kids that sounds like a very similar situation to what you had. And again, I don't know what their policy and procedure is currently for identifying these children. I'll find out. And one of my best skills is discernment. So when I can look at information, I can take lots of information in, and I can very quickly identify gaps. It's what makes me successful in my job, and it's what will make me successful in this job.
Amen.
Hello. I want to ask if you are voted to be a part of our district here for Area 1, what will you implement something where there's teachers who bring their own personal beliefs to school? Because I am against the binary, gay flags, everything at schools, because that's not what you guys, not you guys, but the schools are there to teach. Yes, they're there to help the child when they need, or the student when they need help, but a lot of these teachers bring in their personal beliefs and they assume they speak for us parents that are not okay with it. Will there be something spoken, brought up, or looked into? Because, you know, I have 4 kids, and there's teachers that my kids loved. You know, they just, like you said, there's that teacher relationship. I think these teachers, the really awesome ones, they have a gift where it doesn't matter to what level the student is, but they get it and they understand it. And I've told this, and this is the teacher, Ms. Rosales. She's one of them where I don't know how she does it. God gives her this voice that every child is, put it this way, my son was in 6th grade. When he scored for as a 9th grader. I mean, that's how much advanced he learned by this teacher. But again, what will you think, or will there be a solution, or will there be spoken where a lot of these teachers bring in their personal beliefs in school and they think that we're okay with it?
So it would be a policy issue. I don't know what RUSD's policy specific to what you're describing is. I would need to understand that. I'm sure there's some legalities associated, so it would probably be understanding the lawyer's view on something. Like, there's a lot of people to work with, right, as a board member. But if it doesn't support education, it shouldn't be there. You know? That's your job as a teacher. That's why you're paid. You're not paid for a personal agenda. My job, if elected, it's not a personal agenda. It shouldn't be a personal agenda of any board member. What is in the best interest of those kids? And someone's personal beliefs, like, I don't think a teacher can bring in their religion, so this shouldn't be brought in either. That is not what school's for. But it's probably a policy issue that maybe, I would think there probably is a policy, but maybe it's not being upheld.
So, as far as what Jim O'Neill said, he said that, he's kind of backtracked. Initially, he told me, after like the 3 weeks ago board meeting, he told me that absolutely not, the flags aren't allowed in the classrooms, all of that.
What kind of flag?
The pride flag, they're not allowed. And then later, I believe he got so much, backlash from the community, he backtracked on that, and then later he told me, well, actually, if it's something that belongs to a protected class, or what do they call it, an underrepresented class of people, that those things and safe spaces and flags and banners, badges, those types of things are protected under that classification of the minority class. He also said, on the other hand, that that the teachers are not supposed to, what was it? I have it in my email. I should have had it pulled up, but provide their personal influence on the teachers. So it's a contradiction there, because I think that the protecting the underserved class should probably be directed towards the students. So if a student wants to wear their pride shirt, then they should be allowed to wear their pride shirt. So that's how I think the board is misinterpreting it. I think that they're thinking that the teachers should be allowed, if they're in part of that minority group and they need their safe place. I mean, can you imagine? Like, what if the teacher needs to take a break and stop class because they need to go to their safe space, right? That doesn't make any sense. It seems like that law should be applied to the students, not the teachers, because again, they have the contradictory law that says that the teachers can't influence the children in those personal ways. And also on another note of the CRT, like we talked about, is not officially in RUSD yet. However, my son was in middle school when he had to write about why he had white privilege and all of the things about his race and the color of his skin and how he's been had advantages through his life because of the color of his skin. There's many parents out there with these same stories, so something has to be done, because it's not through the English teacher or the writing teacher is giving the appropriate assignment, right? It's just having them. So there's so many ways to get around the rules. and so many ways to insert your own agendas. So I think that there needs to be a lot of accountability and communication. And maybe there's a way to provide a better feedback loop or something that can be done so that actually the principals and the vice principals are aware of what's going on in their schools. And if they're not doing anything about it, then it needs to go move up. Maybe there's a solution, but just because we don't have CRT in our schools or this or that, I mean, they're getting it. They're getting plenty of it in all of the schools. You hear about it from everybody.
I think this goes to teacher accountability. If you have teachers that are spending, as that gentleman said, 20 minutes on, social emotional learning, your academics are going to suffer naturally, right? It's time away from learning time. And the same goes with teachers that are pushing an agenda that isn't aligned to academics. And teachers do need to be held accountable. And if there's performance issues, I would think that these teachers that are spending time in those type of activities instead of teaching, you're gonna see it in the kids' results. And they need to be held accountable.
But they're still teaching a writing assignment, right? So they're still doing, it's just super convoluted. They're still teaching properly, right? You're doing the writing assignment and the essay, and you're learning the language and the writing and the grammar, right?
The content of
yeah,
what they're
it's the
asking.
content is the problem. So they're still learning proper formation of paragraphs and sentences. So that's not the concern in that case in particular. It's the concern that the agenda gets snuck in very easily.
But then, again, I'm running to be an advocate for parents.
Yep.
I hope that if I win this, I'm the board member that every parent comes to. I will need this type of information, because if I don't have the information, I can't implement change, right? And if we get enough parents saying similar messages about XYZ teacher, then there's a lot of documentation there to do something about it.
I do want to clarify something.
Anybody else? Oh,
I do want to clarify, just because we asked this question or I asked this question doesn't mean that I don't like these people, I'm against it. That's not the problem. It's just we teach our kids what we grew up, our morals, our values, and it's just they go to the school and it's like turned around. So it's not like we don't, everybody here, we're all a gift of God. I mean, they're a gift of God. We don't hate them, it's just, we just don't agree with it. So I know a lot of people, they try to turn it around, that we're racist and blah, blah, blah. It has nothing to do with that. It's just what we are accustomed, what we're used to, what we teach our kids at home. It's just that they turn it around in school. So that's just my issue with that. So it's not that we have a problem with these people, we don't. It's just when it comes to school, it's not for that. It's not what we, it's just turned around. Again, what we teach at home and then they turn it around at school.
Well, it's not academics.
Speaking of legalities and also the drag show that was promoted by the high school, would you? Did it go off? It's okay. Would you be willing to look into and make sure that our city council woman Denise Davis is not able to infiltrate our schools with her ideology and personal beliefs and her agenda to have these schools promote this event, these types of events?
So to answer that, I don't know how we keep her out necessarily, but what I do know, if you have strong policy around specific things like that, and it could be as simple as no adult content, you define what adult content is in anything promoted by the school, then it ends.
My other question is, like I said, with legalities. Will you be willing to look into the legalities of a city councilwoman coming into the school? Because I think there's a line there, and I just want to make sure someone's going to look into that and make sure this doesn't happen again. Keep her away from our children.
100%. Like, I've actually
or people like that.
I've actually already received a letter from our USD lawyers, so I know who their lawyer is, and I also recognize, being that my dad's a lawyer, you need a strong constitutional lawyer representing your board. So that when some of these harder decisions, mandates, something like you're describing, where maybe there's a blurring of the lines, you have somebody that can assess for risk in the right way. So yeah, I think it could all be looked into.
I'm really sad that the other candidates are not here, because I would really like to hear everybody's opinion on this, because this determines my vote. What we're hearing right now determines my vote, and it should determine everybody's vote. I'm just gonna say this. If you could not make time to come to talk to your voters and your constituents, you shouldn't even be running. That's just how I feel. That's my personal belief. But if you don't want to face people, if this is too confrontational, then you should not be in the leadership. You should not be representing anybody, because it's so protected at the school board meeting that there's literally a barrier put up, like at a concert or something, like you can't approach, because, and with all the police present, it's like, it's almost assumed like those of us who want to ask a question are bad. That it's bad to ask a question, just sit down, you know, like the communists. Like, you have to sit down, you can't speak up against the government. We don't even want to speak up, we just want to address you, answer the question, and when you don't get the question answered, you're just supposed to walk out going, well, that was a great school board meeting. No, it wasn't, because I don't even know if they heard me. They could have gone out to Tartan afterwards and all had a bunch of drinks and laughed at us, you know? And so, it's super important that we are allowed and welcome to present as parents and as grandparents how our children are being educated, how our children are being taught. And I never have wanted the school to raise my children, never want the school to raise my grandchildren. That's not their job. That is not their job. This is very, obviously, I'm very passionate about this, because we give birth to these children. We're there with them for the rest of their life. It's up to us to be able to turn them out into society, to be well adjusted. It's not up to the school to raise our children and to teach them what the school teacher believes is okay in society. You teach my child math, that's fine. I don't want to teach him algebra or geometry or trigonometry or any of that other stuff. You teach that and you stay on that.
What district do you live in?
Pardon me?
What district do you live in?
I know the answer to this question because no, sorry, not your question, because I pulled my kids from public school as well, but I know that this is a huge question that people are asking, and I think that you can very easily clarify this for them. Why is it that your children are not in public school and you chose to put them in private school, but you're running for public school board?
It's a great question, and I'm actually grateful someone asked. So my children are in private school because we're a Christian family and we wanted Christian education for our kids. That's first and foremost. But secondly, look at all the nonsense we discussed tonight. That's why my children are not in public school. And why am I running? I have no skin in this game, zero. And I'm still running. And I will fight like hell for those kids because it's just the right thing to do. Yes, I've been criticized for that. I don't feel at all bad that my children are not in the public school system. That's my choice. Every parent should be able to make that choice. It's too bad that our state doesn't allow your $14,000 to go where you want it to go. So because of that, we need to make our public schools better. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Anyone else? Before we close out. Yes, sir.
I can't say she's behind it, but. Sorry. I can't say she's behind it, but supporters of Holohan have been doing things like showing up at your events and screaming obscenities and defacing your signs, stealing your signs. Why do you think you're so scary to them?
That's a loaded question.
Thank you.
Because they know I won't take their money, I won't take their nonsense, and I will clean it up. And everything corrupt that's happening in that district, I will expose. Because parents want to know what's going on. And I know that every single parent will stand behind me to make all those things happen. The tactics of Patty Houlihan's supporters are offensive and horrible, and I would never stand for that. If anyone who supports me was doing to her what she's done to me, they would be called off. And she has done nothing. But I can take it. It's okay. We've got 3 weeks left. I'm grateful because I know that parents are the majority, and parents want someone like me in there making decisions for their kids. And that's why they're scared of me.
We're gonna be
I don't need the microphone.
Yes, let me get you testing. Do I need more batteries? Sorry, just a minute. I want you to be on.
So she can be heard.
We run out of batteries sometimes on these things. Just be patient, please. Oh, it looks like it's working, huh? Okay. Sorry about that. Make sure they were full. I just want you to be heard. Thank you. Okay, just don't push the button. There you go.
Hello. I'm just wondering, are you aware of how much power the state has over the school board of what can be, policies amended or new policies implemented?
I am aware, but the lawyer has a lot to do with that. And as I mentioned earlier, their appetite for risk. That's why having a really strong lawyer that will allow for, I guess, a portion of risk that aligns to what parents want is essential. Yes, the state, because it's state-run public education, does have great influence, but the board also has influence, just like the example of the Lucerne Valley District. They have spoken a year plus ago, and it will continue with this new possible mandate. The state, our governor in our state, he'll choose that. He'll probably be the first one to choose that and be proud of being the first one. But that school's already said, we're not doing that. So they have the power and authority to make some of those hard choices. There might be dollars lost. But again, if you go back to what do the parents want for their children and what's in the best interest of the children, that's how the board should vote, even when it's hard.
Yeah, well, now when you say money will be lost for, within the schools, if the school chooses not to follow this mandate, how is RUSD gonna feel about it? And
well, they have $63 million of COVID money sitting somewhere. $63 million.
That you probably won't find where they went to.
Well, we'll see. There should be an accounting. Again, I haven't seen any of that, but there should be an accounting. But I think you make a valid point. There's a lot of different things that are going to need to be balanced. I have a lot to learn. I recognize all of that. And some of that I'll have to go in just with eyes wide open to learn as I go.
Yes, this new mandate or possible mandate is very concerning. I work in the healthcare. I was mandated to get the vaccine or not have a job. That was very unfair to a lot of us healthcare workers, and it's still being implemented. I just quit a job because they wouldn't take my exemption, and it's very unfair. And our kids should not be subjected to anything that a parent does not want them to do.
I agree with you 100%, and I will always vote for the parent's choice.
This is off topic, but you said that the $400 that you guys are paid, is it monthly?
Monthly.
Okay. Do you have anything that you're thinking of donating that to already? You thought through that?
I have, but I'm not going to tell you.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I as a business owner, I work for the government, prior to owning a business with my husband and prior to pastoring our church, co-pastoring with him. And I understand how to train people. I was a supervisor. Obviously, I've trained many, many people through our driving school. And there's something that I've always valued as a leader, as a supervisor, and as a trainer. If you don't understand the material and you're just not exposed to it, I can teach you. But if I hire you to work for me and you lack integrity, it doesn't matter how smart you are, it doesn't matter how well you know the policy, it doesn't matter how you've memorized, how everything works. If you lack integrity, I can't even trust you with petty cash. But if you have integrity, that's always that's the foundation. If you have integrity and honesty and transparency and are willing to take responsibility and accountability, and then you just showed us that what you've done, what you went to school for, and what you're currently successful in your career, that means a lot to me. People who are in a position and can't give accountability for what they've done, it means nothing to me. I don't care who supports you or who backs you. It doesn't matter. So I'm so glad that you came tonight. I'm glad that you were willing to do what our own school board won't do. That you are willing to do this and to even accept backlash from people. We didn't know who was going to show up. We had the back door open. This was an open public forum. But we've already prayed, so we know nothing was going to happen in here that wasn't going to be good. But I thank you very much, Erin, and I thank you for running. I thank you for this opportunity. And when you take that seat on the school board, I am so happy that there is a person, and I believe I know at least of another one, that we as parents, grandparents, citizens, voters, we have your ear, and I know your heart. And when I know the heart of a person, that determines where their ship's gonna go. So let's give Erin a hand and thank her for showing up. All of you who are watching online, you can put your questions in too, but if you have any comments that have any profanity, if you're being rude, and if you're not being what we consider as being a good citizen, you're gonna be passionate. But if you're gonna come and you're gonna say ugly things, they will be deleted. Just know this. I love the delete button and I'm not afraid of it. I've pastored now for 11 years. I love delete, okay? But I also like to listen to people when I love people. I've been in this community again since 1963, and that's not the year I was born, so I'm not telling you I was born. So again, thank you everybody who came out. We are excited about this election, and we are excited about you going to be able to represent us as you have just decided right here and explained to us. Any last comments?
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you to Heather and Mr. Larry for allowing this forum. I'm very grateful, and I do look forward to serving all of you and your families.
Thank you all for coming out. If you want to grab a water, I think we've got water in that fridge out there. We've got a couple